Yeah, we've had some inquiries about why Walleyes for Tomorrow releases fry into the water rather than fingerlings. Uh, what most people understand, in order to raise fingerlings from in a pond, you have to have absolute optimum feeding conditions for those little fish to survive. And the way it's done is the ponds are typically dry in the spring. You have to use a pond that can be drained every year because of fungus and other issues. And then you fill the ponds in the spring of the year. But prior to filling them, typically you plant a cover crop, winter wheat or whatever, and let that start to grow up in the spring before you flood the pond. Then when you flood the pond, you seed the pond with cottonseed meal or peanut meal or whatever as a nutrient source. And then you have to bring in zooplankton or phytoplankton from some other source. It can be a lake, it can be a sewage treatment plant, it can be a lot of sources, and these start to feed on these decaying nutrients. So then what we do is we introduce the fry into the pond, and these guys, they're less than 1/4 of an inch long. They have a yolk sac attached to their abdomen, and as soon as that yolk sac is absorbed, they have to have something to eat, and what they eat is microscopic. I mean, this is a little fish that's only 1/4 of an inch long. So as they grow on they eat zooplankton, a lot of different things, rotifers, paramecium, diatoms. There's all kinds of small creatures that live in water that most people have never seen, but these little fish can see them, and that's what they eat. Well, after they get about 3/4 of an inch long, I say it's like they want to go from the salad bar to start eating meat, and they have to you have to give them something to eat. At Green Lake, we tried raising fingerlings 1 year on a 2/10 of an acre pond. We put some fry in. We did just what I talked about before. We fertilized the pond, prepped the pond, and these little guys were growing quite well. We were capturing a 90-quart cooler full of pinhead minnows. These are immature fathead minnows every 3 days. And we did this until these little fish got to be about 1.5 inches long, and then we turned them loose in Green Lake. And it is a lot of work, and we are volunteers. If we can't afford to pay for the food to begin with. These were pinhead minnows that we were able to net out of private ponds with the generosity of the owners of the ponds. And then what we did after that, once we turned the minnows loose, actually fingerlings, they're not minnows. We turned the fingerlings loose. We bought I think about 40 pounds of fathead minnows, put them in the same pond, let them sit all summer, and we got 2,000 fall fingerlings out of the ponds after that. But it's a tremendous amount of work for a bunch of guys. We're all volunteers. We all have families. We all have employment responsibilities. So for Walleyes for Tomorrow to do something like this is really unreasonable.